Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, and then actually let's set up some clouds. I'll show you a cool technique. This might not work for this, but it might, so let's try it and see what happens. I'm getting excited about this now. So okay, let's add a plane. The basic technique I'm going to show you here is putting a PNG of a cloud on a plane instead of volumetrics, but there's some cool stuff you can do to get it to actually interact with the light nicer. So what I want to do is create, it's just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go to render view, let's go to solid here. Let's move this to a collection and just do cloud, just so I keep everything organized. And let's add two things. One, a cube to cast a shadow, and two, a sun to cast light. So this is going to be like this. So this is going to be a demo of see how this cube is casting a shadow, just a harsh shadow right across our plane. I'm going to set up a cloud on here and then show you how to deal with that shadow afterwards. So let's turn off the grid floor because this is very annoying. Make sure I'm saving. Yesterday I recorded 2 hours of footage, didn't save the project. Blender crashed, and then I tried to open the temporary files in the backups and it did not open it. I'd lost all of it. So remember to save. Okay, let's create a new texture on this thing here. So this will be our cloud. Let's take an Unsplash cloud. So if you just go to unsplash.com, type in the word cloud. I just found some, just by browsing for a few minutes, some where it's just a cloud and then a solid background. As long as the background is darker in color than the cloud, you'll be able to isolate it just fine. Doesn't need to be like a perfect black background. Like these examples I'm showing you here are going to work totally fine. So let's take this one, maybe drop that in, and let's run it into a couple of things. One, maybe the base color. In fact, I'm not even going to use this principled shader. Let's actually delete that, and let's replace that with a well, let me show you what this looks like with this principled shader first. So we could just run it into the alpha and the emission, but it's not really interacting with the light that well. So, okay, so let me show you the proper way to set up clouds like this. These are just PNGs on planes, basically. The setups here, I'll explain it in a second, but you can see that works a lot nicer interacting with the light versus like a hard shadow that you get like this. So let me show you how to do this. It's a bit of a weird setup, but I will do my best to explain it in a way that makes sense. So let's add a new one of these planes just for demonstration. So new plane, rotate, scale it up. And one thing is, while making these, I recommend setting the size of the plane roughly to match-ish with the size of the actual final cloud that you're going to be using. So that means you just go out into your scene, kind of measure things, and just change the scale to match what it's going to be in the end. Roughly, it doesn't have to be perfect, but get it roughly right, because sometimes changing the scale just messes with the look in a weird way. This is a bit of a janky setup, but for what we're doing here, it's going to work. Anyways, new texture. And I'm actually going to delete the principled shader, and let's replace that with a subsurface scattering node. Let's run that into the surface. So let's change the radius to, we just want it to be white for our cloud, so let's set that to 1. IOR, we can just set this to 1 as well, and then this we can just set to 1 as well. Those don't matter that much, but it seems like it works better on 1. I learned this technique from Ian Hubert's Patreon, just to be clear. I highly recommend joining it if you're not in there already, but we're going to take it a step further and use just clouds with this instead of like smoke like he was using. And then if you wanted to go really crazy with this, you could generate clouds in mid-journey and then bring it in here and use the same technique. I think that would be really sick. But anyways, for this demonstration, let's use subsurface scattering. Let's see how this is going to make our shadow nice and soft. We need a transparent because we want to separate a cloud from the background. So if you just go to unsplash.com, search, type in the word cloud, you will find images like this. You'll have to browse around a little bit to find ones where it's just a cloud by itself, but anything like this where the cloud is just a different color from the background, as long as it's brighter than the background, you'll be able to isolate it just fine. So even something like this, I'll show you. Let's use this one right here. This should work totally fine. Actually, just to make this easy, let's just do this one. So I'm just going to drag and drop that in here. And what I want to do is mix between the subsurface scattering and this transparent with a mix shader node. So Again, transparent is just going to be completely invisible, just doing nothing. And then subsurface scattering is what I just showed you. So we want to mix between those two. So just subsurface, transparent, mix shader, and then we want to take that cloud image, this right here. That's going to be our mix factor. So drop that in, and then we need to flip these because it's doing it the wrong way. So just put that in the bottom one. There we go. And what I want to do is just take a color ramp and dial in exactly where it should cut off. So let's take the black handle up a little bit, so it's just removing that background. Let's also unwrap it with a quick cube projection and maybe just scale it up, just so the aspect ratio is correct. And now what we want to do is, subsurface scattering does not work too well with a 2D flat plane. So it might make sense to extrude this a little bit into a 3D object, and now the backside is kind of showing up and the shadow is a bit softer. So what you want to do with this is, when you do this, you can see you're getting a duplicate of it on the backside, which I don't want. So we can kind of cheat this a little bit by just selecting all these faces that we just added. So here's the original just plane, and then here's all the extruded stuff we added. I'm just going to take that, leave the plane unselected, the front face, I mean. And then we can just assign a transparent material to the back side of it. So new, assign a new material to that, just those faces, and then just take the alpha all the way down. So if I go to render view now, it's still not doing what I wanted. So let's see if we can figure out why that's happening. Oh, I have to change this setting on the subsurface scattering. I don't know why it is like this, but this is what it is. If you change it from random walk, I don't actually know what these do, but change it to Christensen-Burley, and then adjust the scale accordingly. Now we should get the backside showing up. If you don't get the backside showing up, it doesn't really matter because we're only going to see one side of it anyways, but it's just nice to have that. So yeah, anyways, that's pretty much it. We can just adjust the scale. In fact, I don't even know if I need this. Yeah, you kind of do. Okay, just, yeah, adjust the scale accordingly so that it gives it a nice soft shadow when you have this here. And then we can use these to just basically fake volumetrics. I hate using VDB clouds because it just slows down your computer so much. Cycles is really not meant for it. I don't know exactly why that is, but Cycles just doesn't really work well with VDBs, so this is the next best thing. And it might even look better in some cases. VDBs just have a look to them where you can kind of tell what they are. This is just, you can use like realistic clouds or mid-journey clouds if you wanted. Just get like some really crazy stuff with it. So this is fun. So again, here's the setup. Just delete that. It's your cloud going into a color ramp, going into the mix shader factor. We've got a transparent, let's put this over here in the right order. Transparent on top, subsurface scattering on Christensen-Burley on the bottom, and that's running straight out. And then just dial in exactly where you want the cloud to cut off right there. And then just make sure you extrude it a little bit so you have some extra geometry so that the subsurface actually has a 3D model to work with versus just a 2D plane. And there you go, you've got a cloud. So you can even just set this up once and then save that to the asset browser. That might make sense to do if you don't want to set this up because it's a bit annoying to get all the settings right. I was having some trouble with it before this, but it might make sense to do that. Anyways, let's go back here. Let's take all these things that I made. I did this 2 other times with 2 other clouds. I paused the recording, but same exact technique, just replacing the cloud image. It's a bit of extra jank in here that I was trying to figure out, but it's the same thing as this. So let's just dial that in. And let's take these and move them to a new collection. Just call that clouds. And we can just hit OK. And I'm just going to delete that one. Okay, so now let's go to solid view here, rendered view here. And let's just put these in and just see what it looks like. So yeah. So there's obviously some limitations with this method here. You can see if you have it like clipping through something like this, that's bad. You don't want that, so just try and avoid that if you can. It's fine if it's like a little bit, but if it's a lot, you're gonna notice, and it's just a bit bad. So you can probably get away with that a little bit. Maybe just make this smaller, and maybe, yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's put this one over here. And I might want to match the color of these to the background a little bit better, but for now it's fine. And it might be cool to have that one like kind of in light but kind of in shadow. And then maybe one over here. So this is just going to give us a really surreal, weird look. So I like this a lot. Just get some more of these over here. And it's very bright, so I might take the color, actually take the color of this and run it into the color of the subsurface. And let's do the same thing for this one, just run it into there. This one I might dial that back a little bit. Okay, cool. And then I might want some other shadows in here as well. So maybe I can just take some random piece of geometry, put it off to the side, and then just kind of use that to cast a shadow. Let's see if that's gonna work. Or maybe let's duplicate this entire thing and just actually use this. Or maybe just duplicate this. This makes sense. Yeah, so just put that over here somewhere. Can have it like kind of sideways. Yeah, I don't know, that's fine. And I want to position these in a way where it's not too obvious that they're just like 2D clouds, but I also want it to look nice, so just trying to figure that out. Yeah, so okay, this one needs to have the actually this needs to be just darker, I think. We could even take that up a little bit, or maybe let's take it curves and just drop that in there, just pull that down a little bit. We could make these emissive as well if we wanted to, but I don't think we need to do that. And same thing with this, let's do a curves on that just so it's a bit darker. I'm not sure I really like the look of this, so I might hold off on the clouds for this one, but let's just see if we can get it to look nice. And I think I might want a bit more just platforms and stuff around here. That might just make this a bit nicer to look at. And the scale of things is kind of messing with me a little bit. I don't really like how this is. I might have to like scale this up actually. I might have to like to match these like railings with these. So that looks a bit more like it should be there. And we can move that back and then just take our plane, move it back, and then turn up the view distance because it's now a bit too far away. There we go. And now that makes a little bit more sense. Okay, cool. Let's take this and just parent it to this thing. Control P, K for keep transform. And then same thing here. I should have done it on both of them, but whatever. Control P, K. Okay, cool. So I want this to be like kind of look like a pathway that you could kind of jump to. I don't know. That's kind of cool. I might, oh, there's a sun that's not supposed to be on in here too. That is supposed to be off. Yeah. Nice. Let's take this and just kind of move it out of the way a little bit. Yeah, and I want these actually a lot darker. Yeah, I like these clouds a lot. One of them over here is like a bit, the color's not quite right here, but the rest of these, yeah, I really like these a lot. It needs maybe a little bit of refining. There's some weirdness over here, but for the most part, I think that's gonna work really well. And I'm gonna swap this up. This is just kind of bad and messy in here, but you get where that's going. And then here is very empty. Just, it looks like a basic model with a texture, which it is, but we'll spice that up by just throwing on a bunch of models from the pack, probably a bunch of pots and plates and stuff like that. I think that'd be sick. And then we can have a bunch of stuff floating around here, a bunch of debris. Refine this a bit more, maybe make it like a bit more of a tower or like something up here. Yeah, this is gonna be sick. I'm excited for this one. Okay, I'm super hungry. It's 2 p.m. I haven't eaten anything yet, so I'm gonna go eat and then come back and finish this.